Today is day 11 of our Lent journey, and it feels like day 600 of the pandemic. I don't know about you, I'm a little bit done. I'm especially done with video calls, Zoom, Google Meets, Microsoft Teams. I spend half of every call watching my Wi-Fi strength creep up and down, feeling very anxious. The other half trying to help people who don't know how to do basic things like turn their microphone on or mute themselves, do it. And this week in particular, I was totally done. I was in an all-day training thing, and then I had 2 meetings on Zoom. And to be honest, I just started to zone out. At one point in one meeting, we were talking about something that was quite important, and I got a little bit distracted about a football game coming up. And then I came back round and thought, hang on, I'm not sure I agree with what's being said. So I expressed my opinion and then watched the puzzled faces on the other side and realised the conversation had moved on. In fact, we were talking about a person and they thought I was talking about someone different and were a little bit confused by what I said. And to be honest, I just kind of styled it out and carried on and brought myself back into the meeting, but it was a big lesson. I think there can often be times where there are cross wires, where we're talking about one thing and someone's talking about something else. Today's reading is John chapter 12, starting at verse 12 and going down to verse 19. And it's a famous story. In fact, it's one of those few stories that's seen in all the Gospels. It's the story of the triumphal entry of Jesus, where he comes in riding on a donkey and the crowds come out with palm branches singing, "Hosanna, Hosanna." And it's this incredibly poignant moment as the crowds welcome him in. And it's the same crowd that is going to condemn him to death and observe him on the cross. But there's another juxtaposition in this story. See, the crowds are waving palm branches, and they became a really important symbol to Israel. We've just had St. David's Day, and the symbol of Wales being the leek, or one of the symbols of Wales. It's probably not as exciting as the dragon, I get, but palm branches were often waved at festivals when people remembered the nation of Israel. They were often waved at tabernacles when people remembered God's deliverance from Egypt. They were such an important symbol that when 200 years before Jesus, there was a large-scale rebellion, the Maccabean family, who we've spoken about before, they minted new coins and they put palm branches on it as a symbol of Israel. And they come out and they chant and they shout, "Hosanna." And it brings to mind a verse in Zechariah. They are prisoners of hope, waiting for God to come. In fact, that chapter in Zechariah is really important for understanding this passage, chapter 9, because it talks about the turmoil in the nations around them, God bringing judgment on Israel's enemies. But there is this balance as the king comes between the war horses and the king who comes gentle and riding on a donkey. And there is a sense that as the crowds gather around Jesus, these crowds have been brought together by the resurrection, the raising of Lazarus. They've been brought together by expectancy, prisoners of hope, wanting God to deal with Israel's enemies, waving palm branches, calling out for this king who has expressed such power to save them. And Jesus comes riding on a donkey, bringing to mind verses that speak about peace among the nations, about the enemies of God being drawn into what God is doing in Jerusalem. Sometimes our moments of getting worked up, pushing forward towards something, make us miss the peaceful, gentle way that God comes to us. The palms on one side, the donkey on the other. As we come out of this season, as the weather has changed in the past week and it's gotten a bit sunnier, you've seen just people out and about smiling more and more friendly, prisoners of hope, ready for what's to come on the other side. And that's good. It comes with the caution that we need to keep following the rules in order to make sure we get to that other side. But it also makes me think, as we wave palm branches and expect God to do a specific thing, he might come to us lowly, riding on a donkey, wanting to do something smaller, simpler in us, in our community. As you read today's passage, just reflect on the expectation and the real entry of God. And just ask God, am I open to the way that you are riding in today? How would you come and be with me, be amongst us today? And I hope that encourages you. I hope that God speaks to you through that prayer.